And during that time, it was the crack cocaine epidemic. My family was involved in that, right? My dad died when I was 6 months old, so I grew up having emotional, like these, they call it grave emotional disorders. Other people call it mental health. Some people from the hood called me crazy, right? I just didn't know how to regulate my emotions, and I was very sensitive to information. I was sensitive to relationships. I don't know if I had an attachment issue and a detachment issue, but they both probably were there. I didn't get the things that I needed back then at a young age. I'm pretty sure people did the best they could, and the help, the therapy that I got is very expensive. And people like me, we can't afford that. And people like me need it the most.
Man, welcome to Sober Champs, episode 15. Tonight, man, I'm very excited. All day I've been pretty, just cloud nine in it, I think, because, I don't know, I've gotten to this place right now where Ashley, it's, first of all, our guest is Ashley. Hi, Ashley, how are you?
Hey.
What's up? So I've just been real excited, ever since you said yes to this podcast, because I just know this is the right direction that I think our recovery community is going, which is we need to celebrate sobriety out loud. And it's very important for me to diversify the guests, and you being a female and part of the fellowship that I'm in as well, and a lot of us are in, it was only right you've been on my list. And so I have this list and you are on it. And I just really appreciate you coming here today and being a part of us here at Sober Champs. We're down in Pioneer Square at Color Studios tonight. We got a couple extra lights going on, so you might see that it's brighter. We got the cologne ready to go tonight. We got some good, high quality, bubbly water, no champagne. People were asking me, Pete, what's up with the green bottles? Like, are you guys drinking on Sober Champs? This is yeah. So, man, let's just, hopefully one day we'll be sponsored by them, but hey, not yet.
Period.
All right, man. So, Ashley, how are you doing tonight?
Ooh.
Come on.
I'm tired.
Yep.
I'm exhausted. I've been traveling, sharing my story through work. I just got back from Harlem, still a little jet lagged, but I'm feeling really blessed and grateful to be able to have an opportunity to take a platform and talk and share my piece.
Come on.
In peace.
Come on. Well, again, welcome. And, man, let's just get right into it.
All
right. So I usually start the podcast with, what your sober date is. Let's start there.
So my sobriety day is July 5th, 2017.
Man, that's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Hey, all those days are very beautiful days. All right, so that's a pretty... So summertime was your time, yeah. All right, so let's start a little childhood if you want. We can go back a little bit. Where you from?
Born and raised right here in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington, Rainier Beach area.
There we go.
Rainier Valley, South End, Big South End.
Hey, man, cats. I don't know what it is about society these days, but yeah. And again, I'm not trying to divide anything, but cats are like, yeah, I'm from Seattle, and man, they live in Bellevue.
That is King County, but I don't know about Seattle.
All right, so that's a South Ender.
It's like Malibu to LA.
Yeah, come on, South Ender, and so that makes you a Seattleite.
Yeah.
Yeah, where were you born? What hospital?
Group Health, which is now Kaiser Permanente.
Switch names. Yeah, I'm a Swedish guy. First Hill. So, How much, what, give me a little breakdown of being born in the city and like maybe your environment as a kid, maybe 0 to 10 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was born in the late 80s. My mom is from the East Coast. My dad is from LA. And they came and met in Seattle. Whatever they was doing, it was a time that they had, okay? And I was born.
I was born. That's what usually happens, yeah. For real.
And during that time, it was the crack cocaine epidemic. And so the crack cocaine epidemic and my family was involved in that, right? My dad died when I was 6 months old. I was born, and then my dad got killed. And I was raised by my mom's mom, my grandmother. My grandmother, none of my family is from here. My grandmother who raised me is from the South, raised on a farm by her mother with her siblings, and really like grew up poor, but not like poor. Like they had resources and property, right? And they had farms. So they were able to grow their own food, make their own clothes, and they worked hard.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for my grandma. She went through a lot with me. She was a educator.
Quick question. How did she get here?
So my grandmother is the oldest of 10 kids from the South. Her brother, who was born right after her, was in the Army.
Okay.
And they migrated to wherever that is, Fort Lewis, over in Tacoma.
Okay.
And after my uncle got out of the Army, he began a newspaper and radio station, which is the largest African-American owned newspaper in the Pacific Northwest, called the Seattle Medium newspaper. And so when he came up here and did that, all the family migrated behind him. And it became a family business where everybody, journalists, just whatever has to do with media, they all came up here and started to do that. And my grandmother raised me. So she had a little bit of background in early childhood development. And because I was born in the 80s, like I said, during the crack cocaine epidemic, there were a lot of things that I didn't get, like having a father there, right? Having those really important times, early infant, right? Where attachment is formed, where relationship is built, where that child is reliant emotionally on whatever adult is providing for them. And I struggled with that a little bit just because, the journey that my parents had gone through, right? And whatever it is that led them to be separated from me, I was impacted by that. And I was pissed, So I grew up having emotional, like these, they call it grave emotional disorders. Other people call it mental health. Some people from the hood called me crazy, right? I just didn't know how to regulate my emotions. And I was very sensitive to information. I was sensitive to relationships. I don't know if I had an attachment issue and a detachment issue, but they both probably were there. So I didn't know how to let go when it was time to let go.
Yep.
And when it was time to grab a hold of you, didn't know how to do that either, right? So I suffered a lot in isolation internally. So thank God for my grandma, because those emotional things that I wasn't able to get as a young girl, especially at 6 months old, grew with me, right? So I was developing physically, but I wasn't developing emotionally the way I needed to.
Correct.
And so that led me to getting really misdiagnosed as a young girl. I was categorized as violent and fighting when I was having anxiety. I didn't know what I was feeling. Having suicide ideation, having self-harm, just waking up as a young person every day, hating that you have this life. And it wasn't the family and it wasn't the school. It wasn't like things contributed. It just felt like wherever I was at, I just wasn't a part of. And I was trying to survive. And, you know, being a young Black girl growing up in the 90s, and you already have a stigma, especially if you weren't raised by your parents. So this whole preschool to prison pipeline thing, falling into those cracks, special education, mental health, just domestic violence, you know, all of these different things that took place in my life that shaped me, that shaped my emotions, that made it really hard for me to process things. So I always went in with a fight, you know, whether it was teachers, siblings, parents, whatever. If you handled me a certain type of way or touched me a certain type of way, I fought back. And see, here's the thing. What's happening in schools today for youth, they're so much lenient now, right? And they're so giving. Back then, they did a lot of restraining and a lot of physical contact.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why a lot of people, my peers, don't want to be touched when they're upset. You can't really console me when I'm that worked up, because the experience that I had was trying to be controlled when I was trying to figure out being controlled physically, because I was trying to figure out how to identify and control what was happening to me internally.
Right, with no like tools. You didn't really have any tools, and then here they go grabbing you and like restraining you, and you're like, man, this is not working.
And just thinking, right? Like, you don't know what kids are going through at home. So you got everybody putting their hands on them at home. And then you go to school and you got teachers doing the same thing. What do you think somebody's gonna do? Like, you think they're gonna just let you manhandle them like that?
Right.
And then if you swing back, if you turn away, like you're defiant, you're disrespectful.
Like you're supposed to just let me grab you and hold you and like calm you down.
And my thing is that, like, first of all, I grew up in a private school. So everything, I grew up at Zion Preparatory Academy. It's an African-American school in Seattle. So I knew everything about the history of African Americans. Slavery and all that stuff was ingrained in me, okay? Don't put your hands on me. And my family made it clear, do not put your hands on her. That is not that's not how we handle things, right?
Yeah.
But even out of private school, being handled like that and going into public school, they were doing the same thing. It seemed much more aggressive. That's where I think my journey of like being this like tomboy or a tough girl like kind of was born from. And I don't really think that I was a tomboy. I just felt like I was a pretty girl who knew how to fight.
That's correct. Yeah. So now, when you would, so there would be consequences with that, right? And so these fighting moments or these, combative moments, these physical altercations, those come with consequences. And so the journey goes, like I'm guessing suspension, expulsion, maybe, whatever that looked like. So you like take me to that journey, and then I'm guessing at some point something was introduced to try to calm this whole thing down, or like change the feelings that were going on. So take me a little bit through that.
Well, so help didn't really come until I became an adult, right?
Ooh,
so
damn.
So I spent my entire childhood being punished for something I did not know. I didn't have any information. But let's really get into like how these narratives are created at a young age, and it shapes our destiny, right? So I talked about that preschool to prison pipeline. I talked about the fight and the plight of me being a little Black girl, right? And here's the thing too. In those schools, I wasn't just fighting because I like to fight. I was around kids who were suffering too. So if I'm being raised to not let boys touch on my private parts and given permission to respond a certain type of way, I know you probably remember if a boy touched you, kick them in their private part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that was a trend thing, and I did that one too many times and sent the little boy to the hospital because that became like my go-to. If you touch me, I'm a, right?
Yeah.
But I was really sexualized at a young age, you know, from everything and everybody, body shamed, you know, like I never was made to feel comfortable in my skin. And anytime that I tried to be that sweet little girl or calm or whatnot, like it just got walked over. Yeah. But those same things are what like put me in this place of being in and out of jail. Like my stuff didn't come from drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol didn't come into my life until after I signed those adoption papers for my kids. And I was ready to kill myself. So when I talk about the help coming out of being an adult, everything was more about this, like if you do this, this is the consequence, this is the response. And majority of the time it was punitive. So there was never no support or no help. I was a young girl, had my first baby at 15.
Wow.
Had financial resources taken from me to teach me a lesson because I had a child. I was left in juvenile because I didn't want to get an abortion at 14 years old because they felt like that I was too young to have a baby and my child was going to come out with these deficiencies. So when you're talking like, when we're talking about like who Ashley is and how did these things come about, I wasn't born angry.
Right.
You know, like things happen. And I didn't want to be resilient. The world kind of forced that on me. I didn't have a choice.
Right. When you talk about, man, I mean, being pregnant at 14 and having to stay in juvie, like, because I mean, that's kind of, can you just touch on that a little bit? Because at 14, like, that, man, that's a really young age just to have a child.
So I was, I left that private school, went to a public school in the middle of 4th grade, you know, found a little boy that I related to. And I think that's where my feelings first started. I don't know if my feelings are always been there, but for some reason, this particular boy caught my eye, and I wrote him a song.
Come on, man, keep doing what? Sing it for us. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Because I do know the song, but I can't even think of it off the top of my head.
It's all good. Nah, but man, that little romantic, like that little young, innocent, like love that you think is love. And
we were 9.
Come on, man.
And we're 9. Him.
Yeah. Oh, line and singer.
And he was a boy. And what was so interesting about that is that I was the little girl from private school that was exposed to a lot of drugs and violence on the weekends because I had to learn how to adapt in 2 different lifestyles. I was raised by my grandma, but I was allowed to see my mom. My mom was a hustler. She was doing her thing. You know, she had a life, right? And so I felt like I could relate to him. And he was a boy that was in the streets, like young age. See, I was going home. I was going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But meeting him, now that I know what I know now, I always had that fantasy, love type of chasing addiction thing, right? I was missing the major people in my life to give me those first connections that I needed. I did not get that. My dad died. Like, my dad died. I needed my daddy. So being that little girl, struggling with emotions, going to these different schools, boys touching on me, all the sexualizing things. I was angry at the world. I was angry at everybody, and I was angry at my dad. And I thought that if I could kill myself, I would win. And it never worked out that way. But I ended up kind of that suicidal thing became a part of my life.
At a pretty young age?
I've been struggling. I've had to struggle with night terrors, sleepwalking, emotional things that if you were to see a child just be that in pain. It's like there's nothing you could. It's unconsolable, right? And my grandma called it episodes, so it would last for 5 to 10 minutes. I still have those. At the age I am now, and I still have to work through that, right? I didn't get the things that I needed back then at a young age. I'm pretty sure people did the best they could, but we have so much more research and more help now that I didn't get the help I needed until after my kids were removed in my late 20s. And the help, the therapy that I got is very expensive.
Yep.
And these therapists get paid $300 to $400 an hour.
100%.
And people like me, we can't afford that. And people like me need it the most.
One of the things that you just touched on was like needing your dad. And you need, like, I can relate to your story in this way, in a lot of ways here. The love part, the butterflies I got when I would be around girls. And, my story, I don't talk about it much, but, here we are. I think my story just needs to be talked about in this way, which was, when I was young, I was molested by girls. And, like, the girls would come touching on me, and, like, it was, like, normal, like, very uncomfortable. But it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. It wasn't like, this feels great, which a lot of men have told me, like, oh, man, I wish that would have been me, or whatever those. But the point was that there was this moment of sexualization. These women or girls trying to get at me, but not talk to me. They're just trying to grab me and touch me, and like it shaped my whole perspective on love and relationships and women. And so that was and there was no one to navigate that with me. There was no one, like, yeah, my dad, but I didn't tell my dad, didn't tell my mom. And like you said, therapy didn't come till later. And I just feel like I didn't have, and you didn't have, it sounds like someone to walk you through this stuff. Like, yo, it is okay to be having these feelings because this is all fucked up, that what's going on. And so it's not you. Like, and so then we're going to get you the help you need to navigate the feelings and the experiences that have happened to you. And so, so now you get to this place where you have this boy, this little boy, and you have this love, and keep going.
Yeah, I got pregnant. I'm in a domestic
with the same young man.
Yep, that I met at the public school.
Yep, come on.
And that young man became a protector of me.
Yeah.
It also was my first intimate partner, violent relationship. And I didn't call it that back then because remember, I'm a fighter.
Right.
Hit me, I'm gonna hit your ass back. Right. Well, when you get older, you start to fill out a little bit. Things are shaping out. Areas of your body is heavier than the other. Some parts feel weaker. Arms ain't swinging the same like they used to with no boy. I have body parts, right? And now I'm like I'm carrying a baby. And it was must have been really hard. It was really hard for my family to watch me be that young, getting hit on like that. Nobody was in no domestic violence at no 14. My friends were 13 and 14. We were in 7th and 8th grade.
Getting bubble gum at the corner store.
We're still doing after school programs and sports.
Right.
And here I am, pregnant, in domestic violence, being controlled on what to wear. Like, it literally was like the Lifetime movies, because that's what we watched. I felt like I was one of them old ass ladies on that movie getting her ass kicked by her dude, and I didn't know who I could talk to about this because I was a kid and I was dealing with some grown women stuff.
Right.
And instead of like helping me or teaching me, that this is not okay, you love him, you know, or whatever. Like he was a kid too, and it was very punitive on both sides. But he came from domestic violence, a violent parent. And, you know, being young and, you know, the system, I was in foster care too. So just, right, having domestic violence, not raised by my parents, and I'm in foster care. And I'm pregnant. And they told me, if you stay with this boy, you know, he's going to end up killing you. And they said, we have an ultimatum for you. You're either going to go to Philadelphia and spend the rest of your probation time there, or you're going to sit the rest of your time in jail. And they called that protecting me. And I went to Philadelphia. I tried. I didn't know those people.
Who was that? Philadelphia?
My dad, my mom's dad.
Okay.
My mom is from Philadelphia. My mom left when she was 16.
Okay.
So they sent me across the country pregnant, you know, to protect me. But I was in a sick, violent codependent relationship, young, having grown people experiences. All I could think about was who he was laying up with or whatever, you know, and I needed to get back home. It was just very miserable. But it didn't stop there. I ended up continuing to have relationships like that throughout my adulthood. And every child's father that I had was violent. And it was mutual at some point. But I just thought that those were the type of guys that I deserved.
Oh, yeah.
That's made beautiful kids.
Right. Yeah, like the kids are, yeah. That's heartbreaking. So now you move, you have your first child. When do you have your second child?
I had my second child when I was 21.
Okay.
I was still in that yucky place. I was violent towards my mom. I was 21 and I went to jail for a year because I pulled a knife out on her.
Okay.
And my baby was a month and a half old.
Okay.
And I spent 9 months on good time, his first year of his life. And when I got out, he would just turn 1 and didn't know who I was. And I told myself I would never be away from my kids. I didn't like that feeling.
Yeah.
And I ended up, you know, changing my life around, starting the change. But I stopped making criminal decisions. Like I stopped selling dope and hanging out, you know, doing all that kind of like shit that didn't really serve me no good. And when I stopped, here comes CPS, right? And so it's like it switched. Like still in the same car, I just had to switch cars, right? Still on the road in a different car, and it got my attention. And that's where the help began, and that's where I decided to make a decision on how my life was going to be, because I wasn't going to lose my kids. And I thought people that lost their kids were people, you know, that I just had all these biases and stigmas, right?
Yep.
Until it happened to me.
Yes. And can you take me, like, why would CPS come and knock on the door? Was it from previous behaviors and then they're calling on the history of that? Or like, what are they showing up for?
So CPS can show up under speculation.
Right.
So if you were to sit here and make a call and say, it sounds like she's beating on her daughter.
100%.
There doesn't even have to be proof.
Right.
So a lot of the calls came in were people who were mad at me and retaliated against me, but loved me to death.
Right.
So when you ask what did CPS get involved for, it wasn't drugs, it wasn't a child abuse, it wasn't none of that. It was because I was a target, and this is the work that I do too, because I was red flagged because I was already in the system.
Right.
I was already in special education. Do you know that they build beds for prison based off of a child score, reading score in elementary? They can determine how many people is going to end up in prison based off the school testing in schools.
Damn.
This is something that I've had to unlearn of this, they did this to me, and more of this is happening to us,
Right.
right?
It's almost like a structure, and then you get plugged into these certain areas, and then they build businesses around it, and then here we are. The people are having salaries and living their life based on some really evil things. Now,
Money.
mind you, there are needs for CPS for certain, like, for really terrible things, but like when you're talking about like retaliatory stuff, it's like, how does that go unchecked? So you get your children get taken away. Is that right? Like they get
Yeah.
taken away from you. So then
As
what happens?
babies. Have you seen Animal Planet?
Yeah.
When a lion is looking for her cubs,
Oh yeah.
how she howls
Yep.
looking for them. Like the pain of having your baby taken from you when you literally did not physically do anything to them. And if something happened, it could have been an accident or whatnot. And most people think that when, this is what I came into the rooms, right? It's like, we gotta be honest, you did something. And it's like,
Right. Like open up.
and it's like, okay. They're like, why the CPS? I don't know why. Like, my attorney, this is why we're still in court, 5 years. Like, I don't know why. So when you ask why, it's because I'm black. It's because I'm black. And unfortunately, minorities, black and brown people, are surveilled 10 times more than our white counterparts. It's just a privilege thing. It's just something that society, that we have to be educated on. And I can't sit there and admit to something that didn't happen. And I struggled for a while in the program because I was confused. I couldn't get honest. I had to I couldn't get honest to the capacity that they were looking for, right? But when I finally were able to work through some stuff and I seen how it positioned me to make the decisions that I made. See, they make you think you made that decision, but they kind of help you.
Well, yeah, when you're limited with choices and then you got to choose evil or evilist.
Dilemmas.
Yeah, it's like, oh, man, like, oh. I mean, I think one of the things you're touching on, too, is like, man, you did something, right? Come on. Be honest here. You got to be truthful. And like one of the greatest things that I've ever participated in is sitting down with my sponsor and sharing like my truth. And then having my sponsor be like, man, you didn't really do shit.
Exactly.
You didn't do nothing.
And that's where it began.
Yeah.
And that's where my sponsor, right, at that time, who had a lot of legal knowledge around the federal laws, and she helped me. She groomed me. She trained me to be able to share my truth without having an emotional meltdown.
Come on, man. Because once tears start up, where there's a lot of different people can react to the emotional meltdown and all different anger, tears, sadness, whatever that is. And some, cats will hit you with the Kleenex, or they have this inner thing. But when you're just like right now, you're just delivering your story, and like, oh man, like it's like, oh, this is what we need, man. We need your story. We need your story.
And if I could just touch on, it's like, okay, Ashley, what was your part? Because this was one of the biggest things this is what brought me into recovery. I was trying to kill myself, right? And when I came into the rooms and I began to do the work, because you have to go inside, and my sponsor said, what's your part? And I was like, listen, lady, we already done been through this. I don't know what my part, she's like, okay, so we're done for today. See you next week. I'm like, no, we're not done. We're going to do this right now. She's like, no, we're done. You know, and I'm like, we're not done, right? And I really had to figure out, and I couldn't figure out for a while what my part was. And you know what my part was, Pete?
Let's hear it.
I signed the papers. I signed for my kids to be adopted. That was my part. Yes, I was coerced. Yes, I felt the pressure. But no one put a gun to my head and made me pick up the pen. They told me if you don't sign the papers, you'll never see your kids again. It was pretty much kind of like the same thing. See, but I had to get real honest about what exactly happened. Yeah, I signed the paper. And thank God that I was able to be honest about that, because after I said that, then all of a sudden all these attorneys come and go, the state's making parents sign these adoption papers like plea bargains. Right. So if you're used to being in the criminal court, what do we do? You trying to do all that time?
Right. Here's a whole bunch of time. So if you don't come and do this part over here, you're going to get all this time.
So if when you tell a vulnerable woman that,
man, I'm signing it. You're signing it. You're signing it against your will, per se. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to sign this, but if you're telling me I only got door number 1 and like that's all I got, or door number 2 over here, oh, I'm definitely okay. Shwoo, get off my back. That's terrible.
My sponsor was with me that day I signed it. And my sponsor.
So you were sober when you signed it?
I was, we came in
17.
So I came in first to the program in 2013. I signed the papers in 2016. So the sponsor I had when I met in 2013 stayed with me until I was able to. She never left me, so she knew me, right? And then she also was a part of me signing the papers, like doing it, whatever. But after she saw what happened and how it happened, see, you don't really know what goes on until you're in there.
Right.
You getting to see up hand like, this is some crooked shit, right? And she's like, now she's taking on like, I shouldn't have let you sign those papers. Right. And I said, we ain't even gonna do that.
Right.
I needed to sign. Had I not signed those papers, I wouldn't have become the first parent in the state of Washington to legally enforce and modify an open adoption agreement. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Breaking barriers, kicking doors down, right? Challenging the narrative. Parents who are poor, incarcerated, using drugs, get these type of, if you don't sign this, you'll never see your kids again.
Right.
What do you think a person's gonna do when they don't have anything? Incomprehensible, demoralizing things. You gave your kids away?
Right.
Right?
I mean, there's so many people with that story of like, yeah, I lost my kids and now I get high all the time. I get loaded. I can't fathom.
Think about nothing else.
Right. It's an obsession. It's an obsession.
Because I can't stop thinking about my kids. I can't get their faces out of my head. I can't start.
It's in your dreams. It's in your daily activities. You see little kids. It's triggers. It's all over the place. And then you're sitting there like, how does this go away?
And that's how I spent my early years in recovery and people watching me go through that, right? And it's like, okay, so this is what it is. And like, what do I gotta do to like get well? And I had to go into some therapy, and I had to do therapy, which is dialectical behavioral therapy.
What's that?
It's the way that we, framing the way that we think. See, I couldn't regulate my emotions. So I went in, I had to like pretty much get trained all the way from a baby. Learning how to have interpersonal relationships, learning how to have boundaries, asking for what I need, saying no, just being assertive and skilling up.
Yep.
Right? And so like I get to do those things, and when I'm finally getting to see what my part is, now I'm like, okay. Like a weight's off my shoulder, because I didn't really know what was happening.
Well, you were very defensive, like there was no part. It was everybody else. That's how we get here a lot of times. It's all everybody else's fault. But when you own up to, you find your part, that there's relief in that. Because it's a way that we've never thought before. I don't have a part in this. There's no way I have a part. No, I don't care what I don't care what you say, anybody says. I don't have a part. And then that moment of practicing and acknowledging and having the light turn on of like, okay, let's just say if I did have a part, let's just play a game. If I do have a part, what would it be? And then you start to like dissect that, and you're like, damn, because that's that part in our fellowship in the 12 steps that is like I can do the 1, 2, 3 step all day of like 1, 2, 3 column. I can sit here and okay, this is the name of the person. Mm-hmm. This is how they wronged me, and this is how it affected me all day long. I could sit in that all day long. But they introduced this thing called the fourth column that was like, hey, what's your part?
Yep.
And like, that was the one. Because again, it does take a very spiritual individual or a person that's been through a lot to help you identify oftentimes that like, you didn't have a part. Or your part was this, and then, okay, but it's not all of this stuff. It's not. It's this little part over here. Okay, so now we can identify that, and now, you ready? Let's go. Let's move on. Let's roll. Let's be in action. And so now let's get to a little bit of it, though. Like, so where did alcohol and drugs pop off?
Right after I signed them papers.
Right.
I mean, they've always been in my my life because it was we were kicking it. We were in from the fucking hood, like we were turned up.
Yeah.
But when I lost my kids, doing cocaine, right? Drinking alcohol, blacking out, trying to like use to oblivion. I tried to not kill myself I tried to just, I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to feel shit.
Yeah.
And I ended up, what did I end up doing? I tried to kill myself, and it didn't work. And it scared the shit out of my family. And it scared the shit out of me because the hospital was about to hospitalize me for cutting so deep in my arm, right? So the drugs ain't working no more. Suicide ain't working no more. This pain is still here. I didn't know what to do except hurry up and get to Cherry Hall. I was finding myself doing drugs that I said I would never do. Cocaine,
yeah.
I was doing cocaine, and I talk bad about people doing cocaine. I talk shit. And here I am.
You ain't the only one. Look.
Doing it.
Right.
And I couldn't stay there for too long. That's because I had that sponsor. You see what I'm saying? Like, people in recovery were in my life, and they were very aware of like what I was feeling. I was around women who had lost their kids to CPS. See, it was easy for them to see their part because they smoked crack.
Right. They had a out like a really red or a spotlight on that.
No shade.
Right.
Right. But when you're talking about people losing their kids and they don't have no addiction problems and all that, like, everybody's story is not the same, right? But that experience with losing my children took me on a journey with men, with sex, with drugs, with alcohol. And I had nowhere else to go. I had nowhere else to go. I mean, I was like...
They say it's like the last house on the block, right? Where we go. And
people are looking at me. I'm telling them, hey, pass me that. Let me do that. And They're like, and what do you... No, you don't do that. And I'm like, I need that, right?
Yeah, because there becomes no shame once our addiction kicks in of like, I mean, I remember I would use Oxy and like I had this one guy I would always use with. Like we would go get the dope and we would, but it was like he was the only one that I would allow to know specifically that I was getting high on pills. Now, does that mean that people weren't like seeing me high and like nodding off? Yeah, they saw me, but they never saw me like take a pill, pop it in my mouth, and be like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And when it started to get that way, I remember this one time I was dope sick. I was dope sick and I had a big wad of money on me and my dealer was not available. My dealer was really good at he would travel and go to Vegas and he would go to these places and pick up all these pills, all this Oxy, and then he would fly back. And you know, I would think that he was supposed to be reliable. Like, yo, Pete, I'll be back on Friday. So then I'd use up all the dope. And then Friday would come and I'd be like left with a couple pills. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And he'd be like, Pete, I'll be back Wednesday. What? And, you know, I had to be slick about it because I was like, you know, oh, that's cool, no problem. You know, because at that time I'm like selling. No one knows that I'm using
selling.
Yeah, like I'm selling them. I sell pills. That's what I do.
Period.
I don't use them. Who uses them? That's these. Like you said, you have judgment about these people, and then now all of a sudden I'm getting high on my own supply. And now Friday comes and he's not available, and I'm like, man, I'm so sick. I was sick, and I remember just having this wad of money, and I came up with this great idea. That was, I'm going to Google doctors that give out Oxycontin in Seattle. Like, who are the doctors that give out the most Oxycontin in Seattle? And in my mind, if I could get to that person or that doctor, that would be what we would consider a pill mill in the city or in Washington. And look, kid you not, my college education came into Seattle U, man. Shout out to you, man. My research of this came up with this doctor that was in Federal Way. I lived in Tukwila. And I was like, I'm gonna go do a drive-by, see what's up. See, like, yeah, is this even so I go down there, and lo and behold, there's like cats in this parking lot just tweaking. And it's before they open. And I got this wad of money on me. And I'm like, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to ask to get an appointment. Like I got pain. But you could see that like when I walked in, there was just like 50 chairs. And then all these people are just sitting there and they're waiting. Like there's like 50 people. And they're just waiting to be seen by this one doctor. And I'm like, this is a pill mill. I know it. And so I go in there and I'm like, hey, you know, here's my insurance card. And I know it's from Group Health. And I know this ain't Group Health. So I'm over here trying to get to this doctor. And I'm like, here you go. Like, here's my insurance card. They're like, we don't take that. So now I'm getting sick. And I come back in and I'm like, yeah, how much does it, like, slap the wad of money on the table. How much does it cost to be seen today?
Period.
These people looked at me like, if you don't get out of here right now, we're gonna have a problem because we don't do that here. And I was like, okay. So then I leave and I park around the corner, and then I make my approach. I see this lady and I'm like, hey, hi, how you doing? Can I buy your prescription? And she was like, no. So then I start, I'm doing things. I'm in a parking lot of a doctor's office trying to pop off a prescription. What is this? What is going on? That was a big red flag. So yeah, like there were things, what were some, like, do you just remember not some of the things that you would do? Like, you
Rob
know?
houses.
Oh yeah, okay.
I was hitting house licks. I was robbing I was robbing prostitutes on the track.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't doing all of those things to get drugs. I might have wanted to get some weed and some alcohol, because we needed money to buy that stuff, but we needed money, period. And stealing from my grandma, stealing from family members, stealing.
Stealing was a big part of my story too.
Yeah,
Stealing.
Shit. I stole from the job in recovery.
Hey,
I thought I was teaching them a lesson.
Hey, ain't that the truth? Hey,
how the fuck are you gonna pay me some twos and fews and sending me all over the country and I can't even put gas in my car?
Right.
I just, there was so much work that I've done. I'm so amazed at who I am. I love who I am. I am ready to help young women take power back over their lives, over their brain, the way they think, and shift into and mobilize themselves so that they can fight and be there for their family. You know what I mean? I'm just there's so much stuff, Pete, that recovery has given to me, that Cherry Hall has given to me. I didn't have nobody. I didn't have anything. Nobody knew how to help me. Nobody knew. They didn't know. They were trying to be nice. They didn't know. Like, they didn't know me like that. And I ended up getting a community that walked with me through every single thing that I had going on when it came to this pain that I had with my kids. And after a while, they started to question, what the fuck is going on? Because you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and you still,
Right, you're not catching a break, really. Right, you're not catching a break. Yeah, I mean, look, I've known you a long time, or at least 5 years since I got in the rooms. I've gotten to hear your story, and it was heart-wrenching. There were some shares that were so heart-wrenching that you're sitting there like, does this shit work? Yeah. Because for Ashley, she just keeps getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah. And
it was very hard. Because again, being a man, I'm a married man. There's only so far that I've been taught. Like I can only go so far before I cross a line.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going to stay as a friend, as an acquaintance, and then we're going to shoot our shots of women to you to see and then you got some older men that aren't like weirdos. And so then you get this community like you just talked about that saw all of this, but then also, of course they questioned like what's going on here if you're doing everything. So when you got sober, how about this? Did you get your kids back?
So my kids have not legally been given back to me. My kids are in a failed adoption right now.
Okay.
My kids are old enough to have their own voice and attorney.
Okay.
So now I am mobilizing my kids to be their own advocates and to pick up where I left off. They want to be with me. I don't really get any say-so because I don't have any rights. Even though I'm clean and sober, even though I have my own business and I do all this stuff, I'm contracted with the Washington State of Commerce. Like I got a vendor ID number, and I still can't get my kids, right? So my kids are back in my life. But they have not been, but it's still shifty and lopsided. They are, things need to be set in stone, affirmed, so that they can have closure, so that they can heal. The book is still open. It's like the key is still in the door. So at any given time, someone could come in and, just walk in. Like, we don't know who has power to this, who could just walk in, because it's an open process, right? So for me, being able to continue my recovery, this has been some painful shit. Reunification has been hard, especially when you have kids coming back who've been failed by the people who are supposed to take care of them. You got to listen to your kids tell you all of these stories of things that happened to them, how people treated them, the worst things that you thought. Them cries and stuff you heard me crying in them rooms was because it was cries I didn't even know. I couldn't even imagine. It was shit that I felt, and I just wanted my babies. You know what I mean? And to have all of the worst things I thought could happen. Mm-hmm. And then even like with my daughter, because I have 2 sons and a daughter, and to watch my daughter struggle with the things that I've struggled with, that I'm still trying to sort out myself in my 30s, has been challenging. Has me by the throat. It like has my hair by the top of my head and like my throat, and it's like, look, bitch, you're gonna watch this shit. And I have had to lean on so many different people, lean on so many different processes, guidances. I'm constantly in meditation. I have to put reminders on my phone. You know the angel numbers? I have to put reminders to pray. 222, 111, 444. Stop and say a prayer, right? Like, I have to tap into a power greater than myself, or I'm going to go nuts. Right. I am also like a community organizer. So it's like this stuff that I'm going through. My personal experience is actually my career too. And I've learned how to pivot because of the program. They said, you know, if you want to feel esteemable, do esteemable acts.
That was one of my first ever. I had like 3 things to a part of my what do you call it, like recovery. I was in Lakeside Milam, and they gave one of the 3 things was like do esteemable acts. And I was like, what the fuck are those, man? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yo, just open the door for somebody. Look somebody in the eye and say, how are you doing? And I'm like, okay. And then they were like, and that will build esteem, self-esteem, your own esteem. And I'm like, yeah, you're full of shit. Because, like, that's not helping where we're at right now. Like, my esteem was so low and so negative and so, like, it was just so bad that I never thought that it could get better. And so this leads me into this beautiful part of your story that's like, so let's talk about what the miracles that have happened. What's the beautiful things, the things that are like, whoa, you know how you just sat there a few minutes ago and you were like, man, I can't even, like I used to, you know, that flashback of how we used to be. And like where we're at today, like I don't rob people anymore. I don't run into houses anymore and like take their shit. I don't do that. I don't, you know, every once in a while I lie. I don't get, you know, hey, let's be real. Like, hey, look, you know, but it's not that to that extent of like life altering, just like choices that I'm making in the moment based on whether it's my addiction or just like my lifestyle of how I've been taught to live, let alone like really taught or just kind of just put things together to like try to get through the day. So let's go to that. So you get sober. You're now sober. You're trying to get your kids back, but at the same time, you still gotta like go through every day and like navigate it. And so take me through a day of Ashley, like now.
Well, first,
go ahead.
Before I do that, I just want to say, so people can have a better context, that I got sober, right? And then 16 months after I got sober, my sister died from an overdose. So that took my recovery for a spin. And I thought that the pain of losing my children was something. That shit fucked me up. Losing my kids, my heart cracked. When I lost my sister, I died inside. I'm really excited. I needed to say that because I've been doing a lot of work since then. And Pain has been ugly. I was mad at.
Hey, look, if you had the headphones on, right, you usually can hear like your voice echo. Like there's this little bit of delay. And when you just said that was fire. Keep going. All right. Yeah, it's ugly.
I was mad at God. Like you were saying about just like me taking hits, right? Pete, I'm like, okay, I lost my kids and stuff. Now I know I didn't do anything, but now I'm in a place where I've done I'm on a spiritual journey. So I'm in solution now, right? So I'm not like,
I was talking about Eeyore the other day. Yeah, it was actually during my therapy session. Like, yeah, Eeyore. Like we like put Eeyore in his barn. Eeyore, you go sit over there for a while. You might come out every once in a while, but like for now, you go over there because we got some cool, really, we got Christopher Robin over here coming through, like Mr. Friendly, and anyway,
you crying and moping around and shit, and I need them to take me serious.
Come
you know
on.
what I mean?
Right.
I can't be doing all that. But I was so mad at God, Pete.
Right.
I was mad.
Pissed.
I was almost 2 years sober when this happened. So I lost my kids, came in to get sober, got through my first year. Now I'm on this pink cloud. Mm-hmm. I ain't never felt that before. Right. Then the sister died.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at God, and people are like, God wanted her, and this and that.
Dog.
I was like, right to all of the people saying that because I didn't really
It's meant to be. It's right where you're supposed to be. That's meant, God.
That was the most
shut the
horrible
fuck up. How
thing
about
that you could say.
Yeah, how about that?
Why would God let my sister die in my grandma's bedroom like that?
Come on, man.
Leaving a 7-month-old baby. So here's the beautiful thing. Let me just tell you, because I love talking about this. So I spent about a year or two in that space. Well, the pandemic came, and I had an opportunity to go in while being inside, right? Going in, double in, we inside. And I thought that was the sweetest gift that God could give me because, Pete, the pressure of showing up in meetings and doing it, people want you to come to parties and stuff. Pete, I really was like, something happened to my brain because, like I told you, I have stuff that I've always had as a little child. When I lost my sister and my kids, I went back to a child.
So real quick, this is where I talked about with Eli. Was like in my therapy sessions, my therapist will ask me, how old did you feel in that moment? So when you have these moments occur, it like rewinds you to this age. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so keep going.
And I didn't even know I was at that age. And nobody around knew it either.
Right, didn't
nobody
ask
knew
the
how
question.
To help me.
Right,
No.
It's not.
Man, so I'm just like, I'm mad because I'm gonna take the advice. You give me a suggestion, I'm gonna do it. This is my life on the line, right? But why the stuff you're telling me makes me feel worse than what I came in, right? Now I'm confused. So the pandemic happened. I ended up having to be introduced to online meetings. Well, from there, I got to see resentment started to come up. And I'm gonna make it quick, but it's really important because resentments came up, and now I'm like, I don't really want to be around nobody. My feelings is hurt and all that. Well, people were kind of giving me feedback, and I couldn't differentiate the true from the false. And let's just be honest. I love my people and community, right? But while I was sitting over grieving about my sister, they were worried about their man looking at me. And I didn't have time to go to jail or catch an assault in a place that I was trying to get help. That's not what I was on. And it happened more than all the fingers on my hand. I could not believe that this was the dialogue people were having with me when my sister died. Right. They would say stuff like, that's not your full, like, you guys don't have the same mom and dad. Like, just different things. Hurt people are hurt people. People are sick. That's cool, right?
It's not cool, but yeah, keep going. Right. But that's what it was.
That's what it was. Right. We get here how we get here. Those people have made amends to me.
That's right.
I'm very grateful for that.
That's right.
That shit did fucking hurt.
Uh-huh.
I did not respond. I mean, I did not react the way I could have. Because about my sister, anybody could catch these hands. It's always been like that. You know what I mean? So that death was very personal for me. She's been with me my whole life. That was my best friend, not just my sister. So I had to reinvent myself. I'm sitting here mad at God when I didn't even really have a relationship with him the way that I thought that I had.
Right.
A couple tap-ins and what's up, God, whatever. I was on a pink cloud.
The intellectual side of things.
Yeah, I was like on a pink cloud. But when it came down to it, and I'll never forget being in front of my altar at home, and it had just, the new year had just changed. I think it had turned 2022, the year 2022. And I remember hearing this voice from the inside of me, but it sounded like it was on the outside. It was like, Ashley, you know that same free will that you had when you got sober? That same free will that you have when you want to go to a meeting or do this and do that, it's the same free will your sister had. And I understood that because I knew God, he don't make us do anything. We have to have the willingness, and that comes from the inside, right? And so what was happening was I had allowed other people who I don't know what kind of relationship they had with God influence the way that I felt toward a God that I was getting a relationship with, right?
Right.
So here I am.
It's like almost interrupting your relationship.
Yeah.
Other people are now interrupting your relationship with
and my God is like, Ashley, why would you let them come between us? I would never do this to you. Get to know me yourself.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, it was just such a beautiful becoming because I had to go to Al-Anon. I had to go to other programs. There were things that were coming up out of me that I did not know what to do.
Right.
And because the pandemic happened, I was able to go find other meetings, and I wanted to test my sobriety in regards to like, can I survive without Cherry Fellowship Hall? You know, can I stand on my own 2 feet?
Yeah.
And I was very scared. And I endured racism. I endured discrimination. I wasn't made to feel a part of, but I had learned something from this community that nobody could take from me. And that is that wherever AA is, I belong there and I have a seat, and ain't nobody gonna run me up out of here. Like, you know, like it's mine and it's mine to keep, and I'll fight about it, right? But I've had situations happen with me just going in with the open heart, right? But let's talk about this good stuff because because I just needed to give a little bit of context around the forgiveness and the relationship coming back with the God of my understanding, because it's been really beautiful ever since. Then the kids come back, because you asked about my kids. My kids came back I'll have 8 years in July. My kids came back almost 4 years ago. And so,
as far as like being able to see them and like talk to them,
they're in my care, even though legally I don't have them.
Yeah.
I provide for them.
Oh, come on, speak that.
I provide for my kids.
We needed that.
Financially.
You guys hear that? Yeah, that was. They're there. Right.
They're here.
Yeah.
They call me. You know, you was just listening to my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, tap in.
Yeah.
You know, my son, my 16-year-old son. You know, loves being a mama's boy. He loves being catered to.
Oh, here we go.
Do I get tired? I'm like, oh my God. But, you know, like, he needs that, right?
Right.
And I'd rather him get what he needs now than to go mistreat and look for it in places that ain't, you know? My life is really beautiful. I have my own business. I have created healing circles for parents to, because I'm talking about family policing. So as we're talking about all of the things that happen when parents and children are forcibly separated, now we're talking about, okay, well, if we want to abolish systems and we're talking about these systems don't work for us, then what are we going to do in replace of them?
Correct.
Right? And so creating the things and programs needed for communities like us where we can actually talk about how that removal of my kids happened. And not so much about how the system saved my children from me. And if it weren't for them, I would get my life together. That's not everybody's story. And having to be honest about that, has been a journey for me. Having to say, hey, no shade to parents who are doing reform work, right? You got your kids reunified. You were on drugs, you got your kids reunified, cool.
I got a question for you. So then, I just want to act like, if I was on drugs and CPS came and they took my children away, there's a pathway possibly to like get sober and to stay sober and then get my kids back. Is that kind of like, if I'm using drugs, is it easier in a way if I got sober to get my kids back?
It's like drug court.
Yep.
They have a drug court for that.
Right.
But you have to get into the drug court by a certain amount of time.
Okay.
If you don't get in within like the first few months of your case being open, then you lose. It's like a deal. But that drug court, those parents really need that, right? Because just because you're using substances doesn't make you a bad parent. You're not trying to hurt your kid.
Right.
Obviously, something's going on with them because they're self-medicating.
Right.
Now, what we can say is you self-medicating. Like, I don't know how you're going to be mentally available or emotionally available for your child.
You're neglecting them.
And see, when we get to talk to people like that,
yep,
right? When we're actually showing them, when you think that you're taking care of you and looking out for you, but when you do that, you separate yourself further from your child. Because see, even if the system is doing something wrong, we know that we all have a story and we grow up to tell our stories one day. And what kids talk about is how their parents wasn't there or was doing too much or not enough, right?
Yeah. So when you say you got your own business and like take me down a journey of like, like how you doing? How are you doing right now? What's up?
Okay, I'm glad you asked because
come on.
You mentioned being married, right?
Oh yeah.
And I've been putting in a lot of work, Pete. I've been putting in a lot of work. And when I say a lot of work, like I've been remaining abstinent from sex, stop smoking cigarettes, really working on anger management stuff because all this stuff, it wears you down. Working out, eating right.
Come on, man.
Just really pouring into Ashley, taking care of Ashley. I have been, I'm in high demand almost. People want to invite me to their state to come speak about a little bit of the stuff I was talking about, the child welfare stuff, to come testify to their congressional parties or to speak on a panel or to be a keynote speaker. And it's like little old me, right, who could not admit what my part was picking up that pen and just signing the paper. And look where I'm at today, right? Going on a trip. And
you went out to Harlem, huh?
I went to Harlem. And I like to just kind of like indulge in that for just a second.
That's where we're going.
I went to Harlem and I met someone there.
Like, keep going.
Like, what was you going to say?
No, like I was good. A romantic interaction. You had a romantic or the little butterflies flew or something. Something happened.
So I wasn't looking for anything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm literally working and passing through. And I ended up bumping into someone who was trying to sell me some. So in Harlem, it's kind of like Vegas. Like it's like a swap meet. Like they have people outside with tables selling oils and whatever.
Gucci glasses.
Yeah, it's
and
like
fake
a mall
Rolex
outside, and then there's malls and
I don't know if they really do. I think they do that, but keep going.
No, they do.
All right, I need myself a Rolex, by the way.
Man, they was out there getting it in jewelry and all that. Well, the jewelry.
Hey, Mono, you got a Rolex? Yeah, you too. So you okay? So you're out here you like
So I bumped
making a
into
move.
him. Yeah, I bumped into
Now
him.
hold on, man. Look, as a, I gotta love you enough
Please.
to tell you the truth. So you telling me he's selling something? He's selling something, like, is he selling sunglasses, or he's selling something on the side of the road, and you're like, hey.
So look, so I'm
Because
walking.
if we're going there, like,
So
hold
I'm
on
walking
now.
down the street. So so like, I'm not really close to him, right? Like, I'm at a crosswalk. He's kind of like a little over there, but he's doing one of these.
Oh my God, keep going. Keep going, man. All right. So he's waving you down. He's waving you down.
Waved me down. Look,
Man,
I'm
look,
like,
little old you from Seattle.
Look
Yeah, not all right.
Look,
Keep going.
Pete,
man.
I'm like
this
this.
is
I'm
big
like-
Harlem in the house, man. Shout out to Harlem. Hey, you guys got it out there.
Shout out to
yeah.
Harlem. So like, no, but like he waved me down, and I'm just like,
Oh man.
I looked around.
Yeah, he's talking to you.
And he was like, do you like, and I couldn't tell what he was saying. And I was like, what? Because it was so much noise around.
Okay, keep
He was
going.
like, do you like, and he's trying to like show me something. And I'm looking like this, like, because I didn't know if he was talking to me or not. He's like,
Okay.
I'm talking to you.
Yeah, right. He came, yeah.
And I'm like, he was like, come here. So I walked over there. They had like, so he has a dispensary, I guess. And they were selling their merchandise.
Okay.
Their merchandise.
Well, I'm glad you didn't wear that tonight, but yeah,
The merchandise?
Yeah, like
I didn't
me.
buy no merchandise.
I know you didn't. Keep going.
No,
Keep going.
I
Even
wear-
though if he does have, look, keep going. Dispensary's awesome for some people.
Yeah.
All right, so he's got a dispensary selling clothing.
Selling clothing, got a dispensary.
Is this the same guy you're like into? The same guy that waved you down?
So I didn't know I was into him yet.
Okay.
So I didn't know what he got going on
Right.
yet either.
Right.
I just knew what he showed me on that like little table.
Yeah.
And it was like t-shirts, hats, keychains. Sorry. It was like t-shirts, hats, beanies, like little swag stuff, right?
Okay.
And then I'm like, is this a mobile dispensary? I'm like, what are you doing out here?
Right.
I don't know what's going on.
Yes.
And he was like, no, I don't know what. I must have said something. And I guess because I'm not saying it, I wasn't using the code. He was like, shh, like, don't be doing all that. Like, whatever I was saying was illegal, and that's not what he was doing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so now he's breaking down the laws and the codes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm legit. This is what, like, he's like, I'm legit. This is what we got going on.
Right.
Like, he's showing me stuff, right? I'm like, okay, cool. So he's like, where are you from? So that's how that kind of, so it went from him flagging me down
Right.
for some stuff. But then he's like, who are you? What are you doing? I told him what I was there for, right? Told him what I was there for. Look at my little AA ring, because, like, I'm going to take this thing off.
Look.
But I told him what I was there for. He wanted to know more. I don't know, Pete. It was just like a cool little conversation. It was like talking to somebody from the hall or something, like, I didn't.
You didn't think too much of it. You didn't think too less of it. You were having a calm, like, just an interaction.
And then until, they, for some reason, people from other places, when it comes to us Pacific Northwest people, we look different.
Man, we are a sore thumb out there, man. I hear what you're saying, meaning, like, we stick out, like, yeah, who's this?
Yeah, so he's like, where are you from? And he was like, I didn't even know if you spoke English,
Oh,
right?
shit.
And I'm
Let's
like,
hear it. Oh, yeah.
so it was just really cool. To make a long story short, Pete, the energy was strong, right? And this is the stuff that, these are gifts of recovery.
Correct.
Because I wasn't looking for nothing.
Right.
I'm minding my business. I'm actually kind of tired.
Yeah.
I've been on the red eye. I got another speaking engagement. I'm just trying to make I've got stuff going on with my kids, not even feeling comfortable being out of state, being this far with my kids going through what they're going through.
Yeah.
Like I was just, in my feelings. But he ended up, I don't know, something happened. We were talking and then some sparks sparked off, Pete. He wanted to know, he wanted to catch a vibe, right? He wanted to know a little bit more about me, where this vibe was coming from. I thought it was a cool vibe too, because now I'm like, you are kind of like cute, you know, and I'll see what's up with you.
Right.
I'll see what's up with
And
you.
at this point, this is where like we do need to acknowledge like you've been abstinent, you've been working on yourself, you've been staying in your own lane, and now dun, 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 dun.
He was so, and it wasn't like, no, oh yeah, baby,
Right.
what's up with you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't none of that. It
Right,
was
the stereotypical cat calling and stuff like that.
and it was like I did pick up some signs when he was like, oh, you have, what's your nationality? And oh, you should start a lip gloss line. And I'm like, oh, he's checking me out, right? So, I thought that was pretty cool and how he did that too. Never made me feel uncomfortable. He asked me on a date.
I gotta pause you right there. Now listen to this. So now we're gonna talk about Seattle just for a quick second. So is it true that in Seattle, it kind of takes a minute, or it's rare that men come up to you and holler at you, or do they do that all the time for you?
They do that all the time. It was rare what happened in Harlem.
Yep. Yeah. Like in Seattle, they do that. Like I've heard that in Seattle, like the men are not very like, "What's up? How's it going?" Like they kind of like want the woman to make the approach. But in your case, you see no problem in Seattle with men that make the approach.
Thank you for asking that. I thought that it was the men making the approach, but it was me manipulating them to make the approach. I didn't have to do that out there.
Right.
I had a whole spiritual awakening.
Come on, man. So you catch the vibe. You probably exchange some numbers.
We exchanged numbers.
Yep. Come on.
But I put the number in wrong. Honestly, I wasn't really trying to get the number at first.
Come on.
Because I didn't know what.
Man, what is this?
Yeah, I need to talk to my sponsor first.
Like.
Because my sponsor
I need to talk this one out.
My sponsor had told me like,
chill.
You know, like right now, like because she cares about me so much, she knows like all the things I'm going through. She's like very protective, right?
Yep, of course.
But sponsor wasn't coming quick enough, and this was a Thursday, Friday. So let me just tell you, this vibe was so dreamy.
Yeah.
That I cannot.
Give us a picture. Is he 7 foot tall, 6'4"? Like
he's taller than me.
Is he got muscles?
He had muscles.
Okay, come on.
He had muscles. I didn't know he had muscles until look.
Oh, my bad. Look, we didn't need to go there.
Hold on. So let me.
Why you say that though?
Okay.
No, keep going.
Okay. So because this is so beautiful, and I think that young women, including myself, should experience this. This is stuff that we naturally want. I know I have naturally wanted, but I wanted it from that particular person.
Right.
And I'm going to help them give it to me.
Yep.
Right. And now it's so fucking controlling. And and I ended up getting my heart hurt. Right.
Yes.
So here I am in Harlem, and this guy, you know, is pretty much just cool. He's a vibe, you know, like his mannerism, you know, he's into me. He's asking me questions. It felt like all of my recovery friends, like men, women, it felt like a family member, brother, father, like he was everything in one. Took me on a date. Looked like a whole different person, Pete.
Like in a good way?
I think that I misread him. So I seen a guy standing on the corner, you know, doing his thing. The guy who picked me up for a date was a total different appearance. Never judge a book by its cover. He had on his work clothes. So I'm thinking this is just a regular little person, right?
Yep.
Thinking it's just a regular person, which made me really comfortable to just be like, I didn't have to perform.
Oh, no, he pulled up. Keep going. What did he pull up in? Let's hear it. Where's he rolling? Talk to us.
Man, so I don't have no clothes to go out. This guy took me to an upscale sushi bar.
Okay.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
They didn't have no more seats. So he paid them.
Yep.
Here, take this money and get us this table.
Right. We need a table.
I've never had that. I've seen this kind of stuff. And I've seen this kind of stuff.
Girl, yeah.
in like the movies and stuff,
that
right?
happens in real life too.
Okay,
Yeah, welcome
so
to
like,
real.
I'm
Let's
just
go.
like, I'm like, this is just, well, maybe I know it probably has happened. I'm not gonna do that. I've had really good guys wine and dine me,
Of course,
but
that was a little different.
this was a little different.
Yeah.
He didn't have on no jewelry. He had Cartier buffs on when he came and picked me up.
Okay.
I'm like, this nigga got buffs. He had the ring, diamond ring. I'm like, oh, you clean up nice, right? Like, you're really a businessman,
Yeah.
not no little boy.
Yep.
Valet parked.
Yeah.
Went bar hop.
Man, what kind of car, man? I'm a car
Acura.
guy.
He had a,
Keep going.
He had
All
an
right.
Acura.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. That's great.
And he went to like some bar. I don't know, like we just went out and danced and had fun. The vibe just continued to like manifest and progress. Every time we ended, we needed more. It was like, I'll tell you like this. I never smoked crack. But for the people that have,
Hey, man,
I
listen to
took it.
this.
He was the hit that I could not come back from.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. And then, hey, and that's, so now to this day, like right now, you just text him, call him, chop it up with a FaceTime.
No, because
Oh, no.
No, unfortunately, during that time he had mentioned that he had, he was in this relationship that was ending.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just tell you this.
Yeah.
See, I had thought it was my time. Finally, it's my turn. I'm like, this cannot be. This was scaring me, right? Because it was so movie-ish. It was like a movie, like dreamy, like some Cinderella shit, right?
Come on.
And he had told me that he would have that relationship and stuff. And he also said that they were like on the end of things.
Yeah.
Which is why, and I'm saying that because I need to be very clear about my motives and where I was at as a woman.
Yep.
I don't handle no other woman's business, just to let everybody know. I don't handle another woman's business. I don't step on another woman's toes. Because if you step on her toes, one day your toes is going to get stepped on too.
It's a domino effect.
I just don't do that. I've learned so much from women in recovery on how to get a man if they're dealing with a woman. I messed up when I should have said, well, when you're done with her, hit me up, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I think I was in this fantasy of whatever I was feeling. The vibe was so, I don't know. I'm not going to say it.
You almost like believe like, okay, that's the end of over there and you're in, or okay, we're on now.
Yeah, like the feeling was so strong. And so I ended up, we hung out for a while, for days. I spent half of my trip with him after work. In between work, he wanted to know all about the work. But then he talked, when I called him, got back home, right? Because we were talking about continuing a friendship. And it was like, I don't know what this is, but something's good's gonna come out of this, right? Like, this connection's too strong. And then he told me don't send him. I sent him like this little song, because I'm a girl, and I sent little lovey-dovey stuff. It was just something I thought about, but he asked me not to do that out of respect for his girlfriend. And then there I am again with a broken heart. But this time, I wasn't mad at God. And I wasn't mad at anybody. I was grateful that I was able to experience everything that I ever wanted. Since I've been a little girl, from being mislabeled as a tomboy, having to just use my masculine. I did not have to be in my masculine. I didn't have to plan anything. I didn't have to think about, he was planning my stuff.
Right.
He asked what I had going on, and then he would take initiative to facilitate and plan. Yeah. It was just refreshing.
Hey, shout out to those men out there that are changing the narrative of that. Just knowing that, there are men out there that take initiative to plan things. They cook. I can attest to that with my cooking classes. They organize, they clean, they do the dishes. They help. They don't just, they're not looking for maybe mother-ish care. And so we men can be independent and also supportive of our ladies and our women in our life. And That's beautiful, man. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, and that's the spiritual awakening I had was me being introduced to this feminine side of me who is now existing, who is now on the bus and can drive at any time, right? I have been given something that nobody could take away. If a person from across the country who don't even know me could see me and flag me down thinking whatever he was thinking, right? And conversation just sparked and we connected. And the way he treated me, the places he took me, how he cared for me, how he planned was just a beautiful experience. And I'm so grateful for that because I didn't have to do anything to get him to do that for me.
Right.
That came from him.
Right.
That is a gift from God.
Yeah.
And I may not have everything that I want, but what I do have is I have a community of people. I have a few different communities, right? Recovery, work. I'm showing up, building relationships, changing narratives, breaking barriers, standing in the gap, doing my own work, being honest about who I am to the people that I help, allowing them to see who I am too, right? I have so much love. I think the greatest gift that I have ever been given and that I will ever give away is love. And I remember being a little girl saying, I don't want to be rich with money, God. I want to be rich with my heart. And then all these people come about. I think that I am so rich with love that there is no way that I could ever go back to suicide. There's no way that I could ever try to go back to using a substance or a person or picking up a weapon to inflict pain on me, to take me out, to go against myself, to self-sabotage, right? These little moments and experiences that are happening in my life are just little tests and little breadcrumbs that are telling me you're on the right path.
Right.
Keep going.
Right.
And I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I don't care if it didn't happen. Things never happen the way I think they should happen. I think it should happen in a smooth, soft way. And it never happens the easier, softer way. I always have to work hard. Yeah. But something I'm really really grateful for is me being able to take the power back after losing my children and wanting to kill myself for a decision that I made, to turn that around and to share that pain with the world and help parents discover their own gift and their own identity so that they don't have to suffer and be in that type of darkness. Using the 12-step model and turning that into a program for a healing circle, for parents that might not be ready to talk about their substance use issues, but they still need help.
Yeah, they still want to talk.
They still want to talk.
They want to listen. They want to be around the others. Isolation is a very scary place.
Very scary.
So it's deadly.
And we can't recover in isolation.
Right. I can't do it alone. Yeah.
With elephants, talk about the animal planet a lot because I was isolating. I was isolating, and my grand sponsor said, Ashley, she had 45 years. She said, Ashley, you don't have to. You not going to meetings is not the only isolation. You're isolating when you're on a Zoom meeting and your camera is off and you ain't sharing.
Come on.
And when I got hit with that level of truth, while you thinking you're cute and you just showing up and I'm here, but I'm not participating.
I'm checking the box.
You're not people want to hear from me. They want to hear from me.
Yeah, you have a message. You carry a message. And when that's one of the things I've struggled with, or it was over this last year, was I just wanted to listen. And if people came up to me and talked to me, then I would interact with them. After the meeting, I might approach them, but I wasn't going to share. I just wanted to just sit back in the corner and just listen. And I'd go to a lot of speaker meetings where people would just talk, and then I'd go home. And so, but it's like this moment of like, I went to this retreat, and then at this retreat, there were these cats up there that were corny as, man, they just were corny. They were corny. I was like, man, if this is what the message is to these youngsters out here that are just like me, I'm not buying it. I'm not listening to that. We got to make this. That's why one of the reasons the podcast is the way it is. Is like, man, we're here to make sobriety cool. And the way we do it is we bring the people that are sober into the game. And you get to share, like talk about it. And we get to like point out like, hey man, you're isolating. Yeah. You're quiet. What's up? What's going on? And I think that's what's really great about our program is like we have the tools, but we also have people that are like, what's up? Like they call you and they're like, what's happening? What's up? And you stay quiet too long, or hey, some people are like, what's happening? Where you been at? Yeah, and so that brings me to the fact that we've had a great time tonight. And is there anything that you want to share with the people as like your last little bit?
I just want to say, life is like lifing right now for everybody. People want to say the right thing. They think they're saying the right thing. But sometimes from what I see professionally and personally is that we're in such a different time now that like we have to really like mobilize our own self and like be willing to take charge and get the things we need so that we could have a life worth living, and be there for our family, be there for our kids. And whatever it is, that you might need to do, whether it's therapy, whether it's you taking a solo trip to Jamaica, and doing
cold
a sabbatical,
plunge, yoga, massage,
whatever, right? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself and rest. Yeah. Work smarter, not harder. Like we have been conditioned to go hard. Show up, take the disrespect, because it's family and it's this and it's that. No, set the boundaries, set your intentions, be free, liberate yourself. Break them chains off and go get your life.
Well, that is a great way to end our beautiful evening. Ashley, it has been a pleasure to have you here this evening. Mondo, thank you tonight for the Color Studios hospitality. And I just want you to know this has been a very special experience for me. And thank you for giving us your time. And, Sober Champs is episode 15 is a wrap. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.